I'm Aaron Wiltshire, Head of Projects at ETOA, the European Tourism Association, the lead organisation delivering the Partnerships in European Tourism programme on behalf of the European Commission alongside the European Travel Commission and ECTA. This is the pre-departure webinar ahead of the Beijing edition of the Partnerships in European Tourism programme. During this webinar, I'll provide an overview of the events taking place in Beijing during the week of the 16th of April, which includes a conference on family travel and a matchmaking bringing together European businesses with operators from the Chinese market. This is all against the backdrop of the China outbound travel and tourism market, where the European Commission will have a stand. I hope that this webinar provides helpful, informative information which will help you prepare for your time in Beijing. The agenda of this webinar is as follows. I'll start by going through the chronology of the events and highlighting any practical items to be aware of. There will then be an introduction to the host exhibition in Beijing, the China Outbound Travel and Tourism Market, from event director Matt Thompson. I will then go through the tools available to you before and during the events in Beijing, followed by a roundup from one of the participants in the Berlin edition of Partnerships in European Tourism. She will provide first-hand advice on how to approach such events and how to make the most of them when you go to China. I'll then provide a summary of your colleagues who will also be travelling to China for this event. One of the major aspects of this programme is not only selling your product directly to the Chinese market, but also to encourage the development of commercial and thematic partnerships between European businesses and groups, with the aim of capitalising on your similarities and provide a marketing advantage when going to market. My colleague Elisa Lee will then present an update on the Chinese buyers who will be attending the event in Beijing. We hope that this will help you focus on the right type of appointments to select when you go to do that on the system which was just launched. We'll also hear some testimonies from two Chinese operators letting you know firsthand how to make the most of your time you have with them and how to undertake your follow-ups after Beijing. We'll then have a Q&A when you can pose any questions to myself or Elisa about the event on practical matters and indeed any advice on your preparation to going to China. We'll close with an interesting presentation from Lawrence van der Over, CMO of Forward Keys, on the developing booking patterns from the Chinese market to Europe, which was a presentation given at last year's World Bridge Tourism event in London. So, to go through some practical items. The appointment preference system is now open. I'll talk about this more shortly, but please remember that the system is open until Tuesday the 3rd of April. You'll then receive your provisional appointments by the 6th of April, allowing you to start preparing for your meetings. You'll then receive your final appointments on the day of the event itself. All being well, there'll be no or minimal changes to your provisional list. Practically, if required, you should already be in the process of applying for your visa. My colleague Aizata will have been in touch and she can assist you if you have any questions. You are being hosted at the Great Wall Hotel Beijing, the venue for the matchmaking event, and next door to the exhibition grounds for COTTM. The night of the 15th and 16th of April have been covered, and we have your booking form ready if you would like to extend your stay prior to or after these dates. Just get in touch if you would like this. You should have all arrived in Beijing by Sunday the 15th. The next morning, registration opens downstairs at the hotel from 8:15 with appointments kicking off at 9 a.m. The 12-minute slots will then run all morning with a coffee break at 10:36 until lunch at 1 p.m. After lunch, you'll be transferred over to the exhibition grounds where the conference will run from 2:30 until 4:30. For the rest of your time in Beijing, you will have access to the COTTM exhibition, which includes a dedicated lounge for all Partnerships in European Tourism delegates. If you have any questions about the running order or practicalities, please submit them now via the question functionality, and we'll try and answer them at the end of the webinar. At this point, I will hand over to Matt Thompson, who is the Event Director of the China Outbound Travel and Tourism Market. Over to you, Matt.
Hello, my name's Matt Thompson. I'm the Project Director for COTTM, China Outbound Travel and Tourism Market. I'm delighted to learn that you'll be joining the Partnerships in European Tourism event in Beijing next month, and I'd like to take this opportunity to give you a brief background to our own event, COTTM. So COTTM is an annual event that we hold in Beijing in April. This year it will be the 16th to 18th of April at the NAEC venue, centrally located and near the Embassy District. It's a show that is now celebrating its 14th edition. So we launched it way back in 2005 when China Outbound Tourism was very much in its infancy, and a lot of the focal discussions were about approved destination status. For us, one of the keys to the success of the show is the profile. The profile remains the same today as it was when we launched it. It's 100% B2B, it's 100% outbound. So we're not focusing on consumers, domestic tourism, inbound tourism. It's a very niche and focused event. In its purest form, it means that all of the exhibitors are international companies and all of the visitors are Chinese travel and tourism professionals sourcing outbound products. I'm very pleased to say that this year, in our 14th year, is the largest event to date. We're expecting between 450 and 500 different exhibiting companies. The exhibitor profile are tourism boards, airlines, hotels, car rental companies, inbound operators, DMCs, technology providers. And we probably have about 70 different countries represented this year. Most of those are through tourism boards. What's unique again about COTTM and what appeals to our audience is that there is the sheer variety of the products that people can see. We get countries and destinations exhibiting here that don't exhibit at any other trade show in China. This year in particular, we have a very strong representation from Central and Eastern Europe and the former CIS states, with tourism boards from Serbia, Moldova, Azerbaijan, Albania, Armenia, Kazakhstan. So really interesting products for people to see, interesting destinations. And also we have a very strong African presence every year, but this year in particular it's very strong, so much so that we're having a Sino-African panel discussion in the conference. But some of the tourism boards from Africa are Sudan, Ghana, Mali, Malawi, Rwanda as well, places again that really don't see aren't seen anywhere else. And this is what appeals to our audience. This is why our audience come back every year and why our audience grows every year. Our audience, again, just in terms of visitors, they're the outbound travel operators, the outbound travel agencies, the OTAs, MICE and business travelers. We work very closely through our team in China with all of the main operators and have visitors from organizations like Fliggy, which formerly Alitrip, the travel arm of Alibaba, and C-Trip, very well-known companies, CITS, CYTS, ETOA, really a very well-represented and well-rounded representation from the entire outbound industry. We introduced a few years ago a luxury travel showcase at the show, as we noticed the demographic of the buyer was changing as well. So we have a small hosted buyer program aimed targeting the high-end luxury buyer. And actually we have another hosted buyer program that aimed at the broader tour operators from outside of Beijing. So we're anticipating about 5,000 visitors who will come to the show for the full 3 days. Of those, we'll be hosting about 300 as well. So it's not just a trade show, it's also a conference. The educational side is very important for us. So we put on a conference that covers a range of different topics and panel discussions, the key developments in outbound tourism, from customized travel to technology to focus on destinations, as I mentioned with Africa. I'm delighted to say that the keynote this year will be delivered by Professor Dai Bin, who is the president of the China Tourism Academy, an organization that we work very closely with ourselves. And so we're delighted to have him present at the show. I know that many of you will be familiar obviously with the Chinese outbound market. You'll certainly know about the attractiveness of it, but equally I recognize that For some, that you may be new to the market, and it can be quite daunting. So for us as an exhibition organizer, our role really is to try and prepare you and make life as easy as possible to participate in the show. For this reason, we run an exhibitor workshop the day before the event on the 15th of April. It's free to attend, and it really focuses on what to expect when dealing with the Chinese travel trade. It's organised in partnership with one of our local partners, CBM, Dr. Adam Wu. Many of you may know Adam. And he covers a range of different topics about how to deal with the cultural nuances and differences, how to communicate, how to make sure that you're familiar with the expectations of the Chinese buyer, and also to cover topics like social media. It's a really interesting workshop. It's free to attend. I would recommend it. Places are limited, so if you would like to attend, we do need to know in advance. So drop me a note at info@cottm.com if you're interested. One of the things that Adam covers there is the language barrier, and I would say that if there was one overriding message I'd like to get across to you, it's to try and have an interpreter with you to get the most out of the show. For me personally, I've been involved in COTTM for more than 10 years now, and I've noticed every year more and more of our visitors speak English, but there is still a large part of the audience who don't. And to have an interpreter to bridge that communication gap really is of great significance and great importance. And also, if you're able to, try and bring some literature that's in Chinese as well. I think that, that's probably the overriding message that I'd like to get over to you. Just one last thing, we have an exhibitor drinks reception on the evening of the 16th, the first day of the show. It takes place between 6 till 8 at the Hilton Hotel. It's about a 10-15 minute walk from the venue, and you're all invited. We'd be delighted if you could make it there. We'll send further details in due course, but just a note for your diary. And really, I hope that's given you an overview of who we are and what we do. I mean, I'm delighted that we're going to have such an increased European presence at the show this year, and I'd certainly like to say, that we're thrilled to be working with ETOA and ETC and ECTA to put on a great European pavilion, and I'm sure that it'll be a successful venture for all concerned. All that remains is for me to wish you a safe trip, and I look forward to seeing you in Beijing next month. Thank you.
The success of events such as that in Beijing is largely based on your preparation. You'll have received your login to the appointment system. This tool allows you to select and rank the Chinese operators with whom you would like to meet at the matchmaking. You'll have until the 3rd of April to complete these selections, upon which time the system will close and the matchmaking process will begin. Remember, you are making your selections, as are your counterparts. Both sets of preferences are taken into account. Ahead of the matchmaking, you will receive your preliminary appointments, which will allow you to prepare for your meetings. There may be some slight changes before the day of the event, which will then receive your final printed version of the schedule at the event itself. From our experience, the best advice we can provide to you are: be open and receptive during the meetings, even when areas of mutual interest might not be immediately apparent. Make the most of your 12-minute slot. Remember that your appointments are based on your preferences as well as those of your counterparts. For the Chinese market, the buyers from China are looking for new product directly from the suppliers. Show them what you can offer to make their tours different from their competition. Don't worry about the language barrier. All of the buyers will either speak English or will have an interpreter with them. A Chinese version of your company description has been prepared in the event directory, so use this as a basis for your conversation. Get in touch if you would like this in advance. As a real-life example of what to expect, Konstantina Karameri from Culturopolis, a participating organisation in the last edition in Berlin, will now go through her approach to making the most of such events.
So, Culturopolis is a non-profit association based in Corfu, in Greece. Our activity is around cultural tourism, European programs concerning cultural heritage and cultural heritage management. We've been a non-profit association for the last 12 years, since 2006, And we have been involved in many European funded programs concerning not only cultural tourism, but other sectors as well as sustainability, CCIs, and so on. Our main focus, of course, is the cultural tourism market. And what we're trying to do is through national and European partners to achieve a better engagement in the sector, in the tourism sector. Last year, we completed a Cosmo-funded program called Divertimento, which whose focus was to make peripheral areas more visible. So, sorry.
No, I didn't say anything.
What we're trying to do now is to um, develop this output, Eurothentica, which was a trilogy of an ebook and a cultural route and a cultural game, to develop it more and make it more visible in the other in other European countries that could be involved, and also to sell this product in outside the European market, because it was a successful output from a European funded program. So reaching out European partners, but not only European partners, is a very important thing for us, since we want to disseminate the results of this program more, and also to highlight our work on national level concerning incubators and also cultural routes, and connect with other networks on European and international level. So for us, the EU-China Tourism Year was a very good opportunity to come in touch with representatives from the Chinese market and pass on the know-how and the results of this program. So, of course, when the call for Berlin was out, we were very interested in participating in the B2B meetings. Since we not only represent, I don't only represent Culture Polis, but also our partner who we are in collaboration now for this program, TripInView, which is a visual travel platform. So these two combined make a very good combination about what we want to sell. So we are looking on two levels. We are looking for people who are interested in visual content, and also representatives of the market who want to engage more in cultural tourism in Europe, and also how we could collaborate and see how we can move on from there. So the selection of the B2B meetings was very crucial for us, since there was a very long catalog of representatives from the Chinese market. But what we're trying to do was to see how we can engage more audience, how we can engage people interested in our work, and how we could collaborate. So the description of the representatives from the Chinese market on the Partnerships for Europe website was very important. And what we also did to reach better the meetings that we finally had was to translate everything in Chinese that we did, so as to have for them more easy access to what we're doing, and to make it more clear, because it's always important to have something in their language. I mean, people really need to have a clear idea of what we're doing here in Greece, in Europe, and so on. And in the language is the perfect tool. So to to make them more interested in us, because we had just 12 minutes for each representative. Um, we basically set our main goals, the highlighted points of my work, so the Authentica program and the Triple Collaborator, that combine these two combined can they're a product for them, for their customers who come to Greece, for example, or to Europe, how we can make it work. Um, we exchange our cards, of course, and our contact details. But they also told me what they are looking for from me, because for some meetings you might have success, for some meetings you might not match 100%, because the goals may be different. But out of all my meetings, I think that 90% of them were exactly what I was looking for, and for them as well, we found a matching point. But it's very, very important to make clear what you are selling and what they're looking for, because sometimes, because language is always an issue, to be honest. It's not because some people were having a translator with them, some of them were alone, but that's why it's very important for them to understand what you're selling, so as to maybe come in contact with you later, or you come in contact with them later to remind them about what you're doing. So apart from the B2B meetings, there were people in the room that what you can network and reach out, of course, as long as you are open to discussion. And the ITB Berlin at the same time was also very, very helpful, because it was a good combination of a momentum, let's say, because you were already in the mindset of the B2B meetings, and it was a very good opportunity for us to be represented there in the desk of the European Commission in ITB Berlin, because we could reach out even more European partners, and not only European partners, because we have an international, let's say, level of cooperation.
Many thanks to Konstantina for her input. We'll have a similar testimony from two buyers' perspective shortly, from my colleague Elisa Lee. Following the matchmaking in the afternoon of Monday the 16th of April, we'll host a conference reflecting the business profile of the delegates selected to attend Beijing, namely family travel. On your screen now is the conference agenda, which I trust you'll find interesting. We've got some high-profile names and companies represented there from both the European and Chinese perspective. Almost 100 European tourism businesses are attending Partnerships in European Tourism Beijing, representing products in all EU member states and many neighbourhood countries. The business types coming to Beijing represent a varied spread which is well matched to the expectations and requirements of the Chinese buyers, such as inbound operators, accommodation providers, tourism services, attractions and services make up 3/4 of those engaging in the meetings. The last quarters are made up of such businesses as restaurants, folklore shows, retail providers, cruise, rail and travel technology businesses. In connection with the focus on family travel, this is covered by the European companies on a number of levels, which can be characterized as thematic and practical. On the thematic level, many suppliers are representing an offer which is engaging on a cultural level, but appealing to multi-generational groups, as well as more traditional attractions and activities that are educational and entertaining, travel experiences where different ages can spend time together and are also on offer, such as group cooking experiences, for an example, macaroon and chocolate making classes for families, whether they can interact with each other, or treasure hunts at historical sites. Group travel for families is accommodated, as well as a growing market for independent family travel from the Chinese market. Practically, multi-generational groups are represented by businesses offering family-focused accommodation, such as villas or self-catering apartments, Chinese language guides and reference materials, and often bespoke arrangements accommodating the young and old for the Chinese markets amongst your number. Overall, the European family group travel represented in Beijing will be engaging and accommodating. The full list of these businesses coming to Beijing can be found via eutravelpartnerships.org. Partnerships in European Tourism is not only focused on links between Europeans and Chinese businesses, but also supporting intra-European cooperation and partnerships. Beijing will give you an opportunity to meet and make connections with your colleagues in Europe, in the European tourism industry, including routes, networks, regional and transnational groups. They are all represented in a number of ways which may be of interest to you and your business development. For instance, suppliers coming to Beijing are members of existing transnational organisations such as the Van Gogh, Da Vinci and Napoleon route, or the likes of the Mirabella network of lesser known UNESCO World Heritage sites. National and regional groups are represented, such as the likes of the UK's scheme, the Gateway to the North, which pools resources to represent areas to target markets such as China. Specialist groups are also represented within the cohort of delegates coming to Beijing. Companies being members of the likes of the network of European regions for competitive and sustainable tourism, Nextour, and participants of the Blue Flag scheme are just two examples. In addition to these, business networks such as ETOA and projects including the UN WTO's Silk Road Programme are other ways cooperation is possible to make the most of your mutual offer. Finally, amongst you are numbers of inbound operators, ground handlers, DMCs and wholesalers, whose business model is based on cooperation, commissions and consolidating multi-destinational offers. Make sure to make the most of the networking opportunities in Beijing to make sure that you make connections with your colleagues. Check out the resources on the Partnerships in European Tourism portal to discover how to reach out and form such partnerships with your European colleagues.
I'm Elisa Lee, China Market Specialist at ETOA. I will now go through the perspective of the Chinese buyers who will attend the events in Beijing this time. We have invited more than 80 Chinese buyers at our workshop Beijing. There are 50% of these buyers are bespoke and tailor-made OTA or traditional agencies which send small groups about 6 up to 20 people to different European target destinations such as France, Italy, Germany, and the UK. These popular countries with different themes such as culture, educational, gastronomy, adventure, family, etc. Therefore, the buyers are seeking local DMC, hoteliers, hotel wholesalers, coach companies, restaurant chains, sightseeing outlets, as well as when they talk to our European suppliers. Meanwhile, they would like to create new itineraries, for example, the new destinations for their clients. Attending the Beijing event, we also have big wholesalers for Europe, no matter FIT or MICE. They would like to seek good local supplies, especially for new package tours in different destinations. Meanwhile, the traditional tour operators and the wholesalers, we have quite a few big MICE companies whom are tailor-made, inventive, and business travel, exhibition services, event planning, and management, and high-end bespoke services. Therefore, they are looking for new destinations and new local suppliers. Depends on their inquiries from its clients. You don't have to take my word for it. I have spoken to 2 tour operators who attended the last partnerships in European tourism event in Berlin. We spoke about what their business objectives are and what kind of product they are looking for and their advice to European suppliers in how to best do business with Chinese operators. I spoke first to Mr. Benny Jing, Product Director at Convergent International Travel Development, and then Thomas Young, Project Director at GZL International Travel Service. I think you will find both of these interviews useful and insightful. Thank you so much. So may I borrow you several minutes to ask you a few questions about our ITB Berlin workshop, conference and exhibition? Is that okay?
Of course.
Thank you.
It's okay.
Thank you so much for your time. So first of all, I would like to ask you to tell me about your company.
Actually, I am from the Convergent International Travel.
Yes.
Actually, my company, we are the B2B wholesaler for hotel business. We supply the hotels to the travel agents, like the retail agencies, tour operators, all the airlines.
Okay.
Then they can do the they can do the package selling to the customers.
The second question is, what kind of supplies are you looking for, and how do you instigate your business relationship?
Okay, actually we are selling the hotel
Yes.
to the other agents. Then of course we are looking for the hotels, and also sometimes we are not only doing the direct contract with the hotels. Sometimes we also deal with the local DMC, and also we also deal with some other B2B wholesaler. Maybe they have the more resources in some specific area, like maybe they are very strong in America or Europe. Then of course we are also working with them to get the better resource from for our company than we sell.
I see.
Yep.
The third question is, how did you select these suppliers when you make appointments?
Of course, the priority is we have to when we select the appointment from the list you provide last time. Of course, the first priority hotels and the DMCs with the local DMC from some area maybe we didn't touch yet. Like some countries we didn't touch yet. Then this is our opportunity to deal with the DMC for the better deal. Yeah.
So the question I would like to ask now is, what can the European suppliers do to make it easier to do business with you, with your company, for example?
In the European market, actually, it's new market for us. And the European culture and the Euro is totally different with the Asian culture. Maybe especially for the Chinese people, everything we really, really want to very fast.
Yeah, I know what you mean.
Europe, we have a time difference as well.
Yes.
So sometimes maybe we are in the hurry to get one answer from the client. So maybe if they make it easier, I mean, because of the Chinese people, we are using WeChat. So WeChat is very important. If also the European suppliers also can use that, because it's also in English version. So maybe so we can talk very fast and get the answer immediately. That would be really, really good for us.
I totally understand your points. Actually, it's very important if the European suppliers would like to do business with Chinese tour operators, they need to have WeChat, because it's a very efficient way for each other to talk to you. And also, if they have Mandarin speakers, that will be great. That would be great because they understand each other.
Yeah, of course. Of course. Because for us, because the Mandarin speaker is not really, really important, because in our company, most of the people can speak English. But of course, for some of the partners in China, maybe the English Mandarin speaker really, really, really important.
Yes, thank you.
Yeah.
The last question I would like to ask you is, what is the best way to follow up after our event?
For me, actually, the best way is, of course, through email or through WeChat. Yeah, and maybe if phone call, that would be more efficient, of course, and because we can talk more details through the phone email, and we can have maybe sometimes the email or the WeChat maybe misunderstanding the phone call also. Yeah, that's a good option.
You mentioned about email, WeChat, phone calls to follow up. That will be more efficient. Especially the phone call will be more efficient because we can communicate with each other, and I know what you thought. Is that right?
Yes.
Okay,
Yes,
I see. Thank you so much. So that's all, actually. Thank you so much for your time, Mr. Benny. And I think.
Thank you, Falcon.
And I hope you enjoy your trip this time in Berlin, and also the farm trip as well. You have some good results, and you also establish some new business with some new contacts. I wish. Can I borrow you a few minutes to ask you several questions about our Berlin?
Sure.
Okay, perfect. So, my first question is, tell me about your company, first of all.
GTL International Travel Service Company is number one tourism company. In one word, we are number one in Guangdong province.
Oh, yes.
Since we are founded in 1980, we're already 37 years old. So in the past over 3 decades, we have been serving Guangdong, the largest outbound tourism market since 1980s.
Okay.
Yeah, so it's not our claim because by National Tourism Administration, the 100 agencies ranking, we are within top 10 in China, number one in Guangdong province. And so we have inbound, outbound, and domestic market, especially for outbound. Given Guangdong is the largest, the richest market in China, and earliest travelers in China. So we are very strong in outbound, and especially for European market, we're sending every year more than 60,000 tourists to European market.
That's a big volume, actually. And thank you so much. The second question, what I like to ask you is, what kind of supplies are you looking for, and how do you instigate your business relationship with these suppliers?
So, firstly, we believe ETOA.
Thank
ETOA
you.
is a reliable source for us, and definitely when it comes to how to select individual companies. When you are given a big list of suppliers, well, firstly, we will see destinations, especially there are already very established market in Italy, in France, or in UK. Yeah, we will check if there's any new company which could enrich our existing products and portfolio. And for new destinations or new, we would like to expand. Especially we wish to match more new destinations of Europe to our current clientele, clients in Guangdong. So we will balance new and old, and we wish to reach both. Especially we wish to have a better portfolio in old markets, better new experiences, new products, and since the old market still the great popularity. But on the other side, we wish to expand new destinations, since people are looking into new destinations for their special trips. Yeah.
one thing, when you mention about new destinations, new products, may I know, are you more focused on, for example, DMC or hotels or restaurants or hotel wholesaler, etc.? What specific suppliers you are looking for?
It depends on the, since GVL is covering the whole market. We do all kinds of products. We do groups. We do groups. And we do FIP.
Yes.
We do special VIP groups, customized groups. So hard to say. You focus on which kind of supplier, or we DMC, or we talk directly, direct purchase of supplier, hotels. It depends. It depends. So basically, we are welcoming all kinds of possibilities with all suppliers, with all kinds of companies.
My third question is about how do you find your how did you select your lead suppliers when you make appointments at ITB Berlin?
My choice making process, I deliberately chose some new destinations, emerging destinations as North Europe, as Estonia, also Slovakia. And also, I chose to talk with some groups of suppliers, not individual suppliers. This group of suppliers who are in the form of association, or like European Spa Resorts Association. And also one German UNESCO Heritage Tourism Association, something like that. Because I think it's more efficient, because they are composed of many different destinations, pan-European resources group. So I talk with them. I think you will create some good ideas when you approach these associations. Since we have a big volume, as you mentioned, it's true. And secondly, we are also on behalf of Guangdong Tourism Administration. So we wish to match with all associations. Maybe you can do something together in Guangdong. Especially this year is as
EU-China tourism.
As a very special year, European travel tourism year. So I wish to provide these groups, explore different possibilities. So maybe we can arrange, Guangdong Spa and Spa Resorts Association to match with European Spa Resorts Association. Since I know we have the possibility.
What can the European suppliers to do make it easier to do the business with you? I mean, especially for Chinese buyer, because the European supplier want to do business with you guys. So what should they do?
In my opinion, that these new suppliers or potential suppliers, some of them already operating in China or business partners in China. Some of them, also a lot of cases, never, a new market for them. Chinese market is still very new. So generally speaking, I wish all the suppliers, all the potential partners, they change the mindset. Of course, they have a lot of business with their local market, the Western Europe or European market. They have a very established market, still a local market, and they have an America, they have Japanese. They receive a lot of tourists from different advanced market, established market. But now they are China is a fast-growing tourism market.
Yes.
But though fast-growing, compared with advanced markets like the American market, the Chinese people are still, catching up. It's still baby market. So a lot of things, they have to change the mentality. Now you're facing Chinese market. You must share, do some homework about Chinese market and Chinese people's mentality. The mentality, the channel must change. Okay, so something different. Yeah, you must be not shocked.
I know what you mean. For example, the best way to communicate with Chinese buyers, it's better to use WeChat. Because for email, sometimes it's a bit too much for Chinese buyer. They wish all the European supply could be very effective, very quick, very fast, and can adapt it to Chinese mentality, Chinese buyers' requests.
Something business approach is different. So they must get used to it. Prepare for the market. It's new.
Maybe you should educate them, to lead them, to tell them how to do the business with Chinese. Want to, to attract more Chinese tourists come to your country, come to your destination. So what kind of way you can improve in order to get more business from China, for example?
Exactly.
I see. I totally understand. So my last question is, what is the best way to follow up after our event?
A lot of follow-ups, indeed, I did receive a lot of emails.
Yes.
When I got back, these quality suppliers meetings, these partners, potential partners, are already very active, very eager.
Yep.
So they send a lot of emails to me, and
that's good.
So I already passed all the emails to all our European market section staff. I think they will follow up. They will evaluate each meeting and also the background of the company. So I think now we are already embracing all the possibilities. We received a lot of offers, So we are in the process of evaluation. Follow up.
So emails usually, the way to follow up is emails or through WeChat or through telephone call, for example, to do the business with you guys, and you do the business with them as well. So more or less, I have your answer, and so happy to talk to you over the phone after our ITB Berlin.
Thank you, my good pleasure.
Hello, everybody. Now that we've done the kind of pre-prepared content part of it, it's now a Q&A. As I said before, please submit any questions via the chat function or the question function on here, and then either myself or Elisa will be able to answer your questions. I haven't had anyone through yet, so do let me know if you have any questions, and we'll try and get them answered for you. I hope you found the webinar interesting today and useful ahead of your preparations. As we said, the appointment system is now live, so please endeavour to visit there this week and make sure that you've submitted your appointments before the weekend, or maybe just Tuesday as a very last minute time. All of the buyers who were registered are already there, as are all the suppliers, so there won't be any new people coming on board at this particular event. So have a look at their profile, what they're after, and then see if they're a good match for you. And as I said, the way that works is you select and rank your choices, the Chinese buyers do the same, and then come next Tuesday, we run the system, and that generates the appointments for you ahead of the event. You'll get a preparatory list of appointments before the event, and then there may be a few slight changes given any cancellations or such, and you'll get your final one on the day. So important to remember, you may have your appointments printed out in the preparation, but please, on the day, use the one that we give you in the morning, just in case there's been any tweaks or anything like that. As we said, practically, please ensure that you're arriving in Beijing on Sunday by the latest, because it kicks off on Monday morning. So I wouldn't want you to be arriving straight off your flight and into the into the busyness of the workshop and the exhibition straight away. I don't see any more questions coming through. Our colleague Aizata is available on email all the time, so if you have any questions, do drop it over to her and she'll be able to get in touch with you. If not, I will leave you now with the really interesting presentation that took place at the Wellbridge Tourism event in London last November. This is just an interesting presentation about the Chinese markets and the developing booking patterns ahead. So once again, a useful piece of information for you in preparation for your time in China. Okay, so I will put that video on, and then, as I said, just drop us an email if you have any questions. Thank you very much, and we'll see you in Beijing.
Thank you. See you in Beijing. I will be there.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Well, guys, good afternoon. Thank you for being here. It's a real honor. Today, I arrived from Valencia actually 2 minutes before this panel starts, and that explains that it takes longer to travel from Valencia to London than from Shanghai to London, at least for my turn today. So I'm really glad to be here, to have made it in time. And indeed, the Forward Keys as a travel intelligence company is gathering every day flight reservation bookings from all reservation systems worldwide, and then advanced and added with selected airlines, tour operator sales, search, etc., in order to build this crystal ball. However, a crystal ball that actually works, because the beauty of a travel booking is that you can look in time for seeing who actually already has made a booking for any future arrival in time. So that's what we do on a daily basis. The presentation that I brought with me is called the Chinese Roar, and I would like to really feed you with more data to come. So take a good close look at that with some recent analysis that we've done over the past weeks to get a good sense of the traffic flows from China into the rest of the world, and specifically Europe. So basically, very briefly, this information is being used by all kinds of companies that are all having an eagerness to anticipate future arrivals of any travelers around the world, and specifically on the Chinese side. So as you can see, we have developed as a company into serving 12 different verticals for all kinds of businesses that are dependent on whether or not, and yes or no, the right travelers are arriving to their destinations in time. So basically, let us have first, to set the scene, some basic numbers that you're probably all aware of this incredible size and potential of the Chinese marketplace. Because every day, when we look into our data streams and data sources, we are fascinated to see how the Chinese marketplace is picking up, but also how they can make and break a destination within a relatively short time when something is not going correct. And I will show you some clear examples of how we have seen that throughout the last couple of years. I mean, the numbers speak for themselves. And every time that we present this at any stage where there's, not so much knowledge about the Chinese market, it goes without saying that 27,000 travel agencies, 50% more than 8 years ago, are currently driving this marketplace. But hang on, look at there, 8.3% of Chinese possessing a passport. Put that into reference with, for example, the US market, where 36% of US travelers hold a passport. And according to CNTA, at least the expectations for 2020 is to reach 200 million outbound travelers. I think that's a bit on the very positive side if you look where we are currently to date, but it's a good example of where this market is leading to. And let's also do not forget about the spend opportunity. If we look and take the numbers from 2008, the last 8 years, of how Chinese outbound travelers spend their money wisely outside of China, we have already reached $261 billion US. And if you put that into perspective and you look at 2025, then it is estimated that 44% of luxury travel spent globally will be done by the Chinese. Chinese travelers cannot be just compared to any other travelers. They are the driving force. They are the growth engine of many destinations and many regions. But what we see in the data, if we look at their booking behavior or the booking behavior of Chinese in general, coming from the different areas, there's quite some remarkable findings that we've seen. Take a look, for example, on how Chinese travelers are responding, and Chinese government is responding to all kinds of events happening worldwide. What we see here is the before and the after of the THAAD missile crisis in Korea. So on the left side, you see a plus 5% of growth for Asian regions just before this happened. And then basically from the one month to the other, the travel itineraries really have changed and moved from South Korea to the rest of Asia. And being Thailand, Malaysia, Singapore, Vietnam, all with their respective reasons why the itineraries have gone to these destinations, experiencing a tremendous growth, whilst the Chinese travelers converted their ways into Asian countries. And maybe that's a little bit the elephant in the room, but under the Trump administration, the reason and the way that we've seen booking behavior of Chinese going to the US has had quite a remarkable impact. Look at the picture here. Current to date, we've recorded a -10 for bookings to the US, but in favor, and because of new route development and more bilateral exchanges, Canada is picking the fruits as well as Mexico. And let's go back a little bit more into detail for Europe. What we see here is already some years ago, but it was the moment for a remarkable change in time, how the Chinese reconverted their itineraries into the European landscape. Basically, what we see here is the 3 weeks after the Bataclan events happening in France. And basically, as an immediate response, all bookings obviously diverted to other areas, specifically to Russia and specifically to Vietnam. However, what happened after that, because I think Bataclan was a learning for all of us to see how to respond on these events. However, the difficulty with those events were specifically for France, that it lasted for more than a year before the travel booking behavior was back on a normal track. And I don't want to overcomplicate this. This is done by our analyst, and yes, it needs a little bit of an explanation, but you will find it on our website, and we will share this presentation afterwards. But on the left side, you see the main itineraries that Chinese undertook in Europe before the Bataclan events. And in the top 5 itineraries, 4 of them were via Charles de Gaulle. Charles de Gaulle, France, was a main part of that. After these events from happening, you see on the right side, we've seen quite some remarkable changes in the reroutings, where St. Petersburg, new destinations have become, a major element of the main destinations, and only 1 out of the 5 top destinations itineraries, Charles de Gaulle is currently a part of that. So the UK, Nordics, Spain basically benefited from the travel itineraries here and are continuing to do so. And maybe here we see a little bit of the work of Mikko as well, in Finland being as well on the top destinations for the Chinese. If we look into our numbers and you look at the 5 fastest increasing destinations, then you see also some new breed of destinations like Czech Republic, supported by the One Belt, One Road initiative. Spain is on the rise. Finland is performing remarkably well. We currently estimate around 17% of the Chinese is just part within Europe of the global travel landscape, being that there's plenty of room for growth. And as well, if you look a little bit more to the traveler profiles, with how many people are the Chinese traveling together, how long are they staying, we see some really interesting comments. And to conclude on that, I would like to just give you the example of where our company is based as well in Spain, just as an example of how data analytics can help us all to be more relevant to Chinese making their way into the European landscape. If you look at the left side, you see some demographics, how fast and how far in advance Chinese are planning their trips, whether to go, with how many people they're traveling together, how long they stay. If you take this specifically, and that goes for any country within Europe, the dynamics behave differently. In Spain, it's more of a group travel destination as on the rise, and as well, the pre-booking days are much higher than the average in the rest of the world of when bookings are being made. So to communicate, to do the right marketing exercises, this is helpful in order to understand when to be most relevant. We talked about visas before as well, and I did not want to leave you behind without showing this chart, but it shows the next months after a visa relief was imposed to several countries around the world, where you can see as well some exotic names in there, and how it has helped to drive Chinese coming to their destinations. It's a critical part. Last but not least, what I said and where I started with, a booking is a fantastic element to look into the future and make a crystal ball actually work. What you see here is the next 4 months from now and where we are with the booking behavior of Chinese going abroad. We looked at Canada on the rise. We as well see already some Catalan impacts here, where the rest of Western Europe is currently benefiting, and Spain sees just a 2% of increase in booking numbers as of now, where it was 17% before the 1st of October, when this event was starting to happen. So you see an immediate response on the travel itineraries and the booking behavior of the Chinese. And then on the right side, obviously, again, we are double-digit growth ahead for bookings for the next 4 months. And that looks very positive and very bright. With that, I would like to thank you for your attention to all this data. Thank you.